Well, good morning. On behalf of the Wilkinson family, thank you for being here to celebrate, honor, remember, pay our respects. Uh, and so I'm going to use a word that may sound kind of weird. It's not a happy day at all, but it can be a joyful day in the midst of our tears, in the midst of our sadness, which is all appropriate as we're here today to. It's hard for me to call him Jeshua, juice box. I'm just going to go with it, okay? And we'll talk about that later, but it's appropriate, and we'll see why, as you see. But Jeshua was born February 13th, as you see behind me, 2001, Fort Carson, Colorado. His last day with us was May 15th on the Trinity River over at Humboldt County. He was the second child of Gerald Wilkinson and Monique Nuniza, and the little brother to Satori and also to Cheyenne Fletcher, and his grandparents, Carol, and previously preceding him, grandfather Gregory. 3 years ago, he became stepson of Jamie Tracy, and about a year ago became the big brother to Elijah Christopher. And along with all the rest of you, he just loved life and what God gave him in this life. Father, we bow before you, and we want to say thank you for this promise that you said that you would give us your Holy Spirit, and one of the names that you have given him is the Comforter. And so may you, Comforter, be that today for all of us in the midst of the confusion, the mysteries of life, but also the comfort of knowing that this is, for many of us, just a temporary interruption, that we'll be together one day again. But as we finish, may we also finish well. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Juice Bach was a Buckeye School of Arts graduate, kindergarten through 8th grade, and then attended CV, Central Valley, for those of you not from the area. CV is what we call it. Enjoyed cross country, track and field, was active also with the Future Farmers of America, and graduated in 2018. Following that, he began his career at Shasta College and then transferred to Cal Poly Humboldt, studying kinesiology with a pre-medical program. Long-term goal, United States Army Officer Candidate School, and then long-term is to become a PA, physician's assistant. In 2020, while attending Shasta College, he and Sydney met and on the cross-country team. In 2021, they began to date, become serious dating partners, and eventually moving over to Arcata, Humboldt County. But growing up, Juice Bach loved basketball as a team member, track and field, pole vault, hurdler, long distance, 4x4, in that whole realm of activity. And he used to say, and this is all information that Dad gave me, so I'm sharing from his heart. But Juice Bach's heart was, his sport is your sport's punishment. And so, but his personal best, 2.56 on the 200 meter, 55.5 on the 400 meter, 2 minutes and 15 seconds on the 800 meter. Why anybody would do that, I have no idea. But pole vaulting, personal best, 10 feet, 6 inches. And most of these records, personal records, were in 2019. But his passion for sports were not just in organized sports. He loved to skydive, outdoor rock climbing and bouldering, bike and packed hundreds of miles on the wilderness trails locally, backpacking, even learned how to make his own fire starters. Maybe some of you know his secret recipe if he shares it with you. If not, too bad for you. But just loved being outdoors, loved all that came with that. And along with his also passion for snowboarding on his War Pig with his sister and friends. Academically, and you just see in his life, whatever he pursued, he wanted to do his personal best. I think the word excellence would be appropriate in his personal passions. But even academically, received 4 academic scholarships, including the McConnell Scholarship, more than anybody else in his graduating class when he was at CV High School. Maintained a 3.8 to 4.0 average with all of his academics, was on the dean's list at the university. Just loved that commitment to whatever he was involved in. He wanted to give his personal best. But even when he was a little guy, and that's why it's hard for me to call him Jeshua, because he was always Juice Box around here. But even as a little guy, he loved to make a difference in people's lives. He was that one that would stand up for a classmate who was being bullied. He was the one that was always sharing kindness and left a lasting impression on everyone who was a part of his life, and that was a witness to who he is. And more than anything else, he was just a loving young man. One of those men that you wonder, is it real? Yes, you watch someone's life and you realize it's not just for a moment, that's who they are inside. One of our favorite stories, and this is where we come to Juice Box, if you're not familiar with that, but when Gerald was helping out with our Little Country Church K-Zone Church Camp for little guys. Most of the kids were like 10, 11, and so Gerald brought his 5-year-old son with him. And one of the girls attending camp just commented how cute he was. She said he reminded him of a cute little juice box. And she said, I could just drink him up. And from that moment on, that's where we get Juice Box. That was his online gaming handle. That was just how people knew him, that wondered where that name come from. Now you know the backstory. But he always had a small, close-knit group of friends, as we see here today. Well, this isn't a small group, this is a large group, but there was the smaller group that were this tight-knit video gamers. Not only was he involved in video gaming, he just impacted by being there presently, not just digitally, just his physical presence is just a testimony to who he is and what he longed to be, bringing everyone together with an infectious enthusiasm and just boundless energy like his father. But Juicebox was always generous, ready to lend a hand, give a hug, offer a smile, made friends wherever he was and wherever he went, and just had a knack for making people feel comfortable but valued. That's huge in today's world. His generosity and love and kindness were evident when he volunteered to live with his grandma to help her out in his challenging just daily tasks. And even after he moved over to Arcata, he would still drive to Reading, help her do yard work, do her groceries, then turn right back and drive back because he had work that night. Just a testimony of his love for his grandmother and for people. He used to say this, the 24-hour day was like an oval track. It never shrunk or got any bigger. You only had more hurdles to go over when you decide to add more to your day. And so, this is a sad day in many ways, but it's also a blessing that we can come together and to really publicly thank God, but also thank you for investing in their life. And at this time, I'm going to ask Gerald if you'll come and share a few words at this point.
Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. I will try to get through this. If not, I might hand it off to Pastor Brian to finish for me. The first thing I want to share is something that his group of online gaming friends wrote. They had been playing since they were all about 11, 12. And it was always just the 5 of them. And one of them asked me last month, hey, I haven't heard from Jesh. Is he blowing us off or what's going on? And that's when I told him. And they really wanted to write something on how he had impacted their life. And this is what they wrote. I'm going to share this first. And so they wrote, for Jesh, some brief words from distant friends. Gradmaster, whose name is Daniel. MK, whose name is Josh. Phoenix, whose name is Leanne. And Reflex, whose name is Reese. And of course, Jeshua was the 5th one, who's Juicebox. They wrote, we may have never met Jeshua in person, or as we knew him, Juicebox, but that doesn't mean that his presence didn't have an impact on our lives. We all spent many days and long nights chatting, playing video games, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. Most of us met when we were young teenagers, so we all grew up together in a way. Despite age and newfound responsibilities, we always tried to keep in touch with each other as much as possible, even if that meant just hopping in a group call once every few months, having a laugh like old times, and catching up on each other's lives. None of us could predict that all those late nights gaming and joking around together would lead to such a strong, lifelong friendship, a friendship that grew into a new family. Jeshua always seemed so easygoing about life and school, He was someone who was genuinely enjoying every moment of life offered to him. To us, he always seemed to face everything head on, at full speed, with absolutely no fear. We will never forget his contagious laughter and the way he could enter a chat room and just his presence would lift everyone's spirits. All the fond memories we have with Juicebox, Jeshua, will never be forgotten. He will always be in our hearts and his presence will forever be missed. We love you, brother. It's gonna be hard. So I struggled on writing this for weeks. And what I ended up doing was kind of writing a eulogy, but in the style of a short story. Let's see if I can get through it. This story is called Legacy of the Trail. Okay. In the lush landscapes of Northern California, where ancient forests whisper and rivers thread silently through towering mountains, Jeshua Wilkinson, known to his friends as Juicebox, carved a path that was uniquely his own. His journey, marked by determination and a deep connection with the wild, became a beacon for all who knew him. Born in a traditional military fashion at Fort Carson, Colorado, Jeshua was brought into this world of natural, rugged splendor from the very beginning. However, it was in Redding, California, where his story truly began. His family moved back there when he was just 4 months old, setting the stage for a life deeply intertwined with the majestic mountains and expansive landscapes of Northern California. As a young boy, Jeshua enjoyed playing video games with his family and friends. He was an avid gamer, leading his team of friends through virtual landscapes with the same strategic acumen and leadership he displayed later in his life. Online, he was Juicebox, a commander who could inspire his teammates to push through challenges with courage, humor, and the occasional impossible clutch. Soon, he discovered his passion for basketball at Buckeye School of the Arts in the 5th grade, alongside his best friend, Norberto. Norberto, could you please stand up? This is Norberto. He and Jesh grew up from 1st grade together. They are essentially brothers. If you want to hear some really good stories, talk to Norberto. On the court, what he lacked in stature, he more than made up for with heart. From the age of 10, the hardwood courts became stages where his skills were both challenged and showcased. He continued to play basketball all the way through high school. In high school, he met his other best friend, Ricky Sanderson. Ricky, can you please stand up? And there's Ricky Sanderson in the back. If you ever want to hear some stories about Jesh, he is the other individual you're going to want to talk to. Through basketball, though basketball was a delight, it was merely one facet of his athletic pursuits. His real passion lay in the adrenaline-pumping world of track and field and cross-country running, where he distinguished himself through sheer determination, perseverance, and prowess. High school at Central Valley was a time of growth and leadership. Jesh discovered new passions in cross-country and track and field. Unlike many of his peers, though, who saw cross-country as a grueling necessity, Jeshua embraced the challenge. To him, the pain was not a deterrent, but a call to push further, to test the limits of his endurance. He often quipped that his sport was your sport's punishment, a playful jab that underscored his commitment and love for the rigorous demands of cross-country. Here, Jesh not only competed, but inspired. In addition to basketball, track and field, and cross-country, Jesh also participated in Future Farmers of America. His charisma, dedication, and unwavering work ethic underscored his commitment to community and stewardship of the land. It was also during this time that his academic and athletic endeavors earned him more scholarships than any other graduating peer in 2019, a testament to his multifaceted talents and academic excellence. He always maintained a 4.0. This passion for pushing boundaries followed Jeshua to Cal Poly Humboldt, where he dove into his pre-med studies. It was here, amid the towering trees and rugged coastlines of Arcata, that he truly thrived in the outdoors. The natural world around Humboldt, Trinity, and Shasta counties provided the perfect backdrop for his outdoor pursuits: snowboarding, swimming, skydiving, rock climbing, backpacking, hiking, and exploring the wilderness. They all became his sanctuaries from the rigors of academic life. Academically, Jeshua was driven by a fascination for the mechanics of the human body. He pursued a degree in kinesiology, aiming to combine his love of sports with a career that could help others achieve their best physical potential. His plans were ambitious, extending beyond graduation to include enlistment in the U.S. Army Officer Candidate School, and eventually as a physician's assistant. Jeshua's life was a series of intertwined paths, each one chosen with the intention of challenging himself and contributing to the world around him. His love for difficult paths, whether on the trail or in his studies, taught those around him about resilience, passion, and the joy of overcoming obstacles. His legacy, though cut tragically short, will continue to ripple through the community for many years to come, a testament to a life lived fully and fiercely. His unwavering kindness, his infectious enthusiasm, his contagious smile, and his magnificent hug, and his ability to make each person feel deeply seen and valued will not be seen again in our lifetime. In the hearts of those he touched, Jeshua Wilkinson remains a lasting inspiration, a reminder that the most challenging paths often lead to the most beautiful destinations. His story endures in the trails he ran, the lives he changed, and the memories cherished by all who were lucky enough to know him. Throughout his life, Jeshua taught us that with courage, humor, and relentless determination, every path, no matter how punishing, is worth running. And that's all. Thank you.
I was supposed to go first because I didn't want to follow that because it was so beautifully written. If you don't know me, I'm Jamie. I'm Jeshua's stepmother. All right. I can't even do the first line. All right, Jeshua, you will always be my favorite. I always said that. It's never easy to say goodbye to someone who has been a part of your life. I have found that when a person is gone, there seems to be a hole in your heart, and I believe that will never heal all the way. That's what many of us are feeling today. It's been 45 days, that's 1,080 hours, since I learned of you leaving this earth, and every second has been difficult to live through. Since that terrifying night, I've wanted time to stop, everyone to just stop, and it doesn't seem possible to go on without you in our lives. For me, it's thinking about all of the things I wish I had said. I wish I had said, I love you more. I remember the first time Jeshua said, love Jamie. As he was leaving, he used to always just say, love you guys, or love you dad. And this was the first time he actually said, love you, Jamie. As he was leaving, I went back into the house, jumped up and down, and cried because it was the first time I felt like a mom. I wish I had said, I'm proud of you more. I was constantly impressed by Jeshua and the resilience he showed in his life. I found myself feeling jealous of him and all that he had accomplished at such a young age. I wish I had said, I'm here for you more. No matter the struggles, no matter the mistakes, a parent's love for their child is unconditional. So thank you, Jeshua, for allowing me to love you. Some of you know Jeshua better than others, but you're here because he had an impact on your life and you want to honor that. Because he did affect you in some way, it's not going to be easy. to say goodbye. I first met Jeshua when he was a senior in high school. When going through some of his things, I found a card I gave him from his graduation. He actually kept everything, all of his graduation cards, all of his stuff from high school. He was very sentimental, apparently. So in it, I wrote, "Jeshua, you are such an amazing young man, and I have truly enjoyed getting to know you. I am already so proud and impressed by your mature insight and outlook on life. You will accomplish so much in your life. All of these things remain true, and I am honored to have known such an incredible young man. At such a difficult time, it's important to remember the good memories we all have of Jeshua. By holding on to those memories, we can focus on the good times we had together and help each other find comfort." It's hard to say goodbye to someone who had such a big impact on our lives. It's always hard to lose someone you know, to let go of them and move on. But if we keep those memories in our hearts and minds, we can find comfort, and Jeshua will always be with us. Just by being here, you're showing that Jeshua had an impact on you, and that's a great comfort to me, to know that he touched other people's lives in the same way he touched mine. And that's how I'll always remember Jeshua. He's my favorite. That was it.
You know, I often say at gatherings like this, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And we want to open up the microphones for a few moments, and lots of reasons. But one is there may be some things that you share that for someone else, it's like, oh, so that's it, that final piece that makes sense of the journey that you've had with this friend. And so if you would do this, if you would make your way up, you don't have to touch the microphones, just stand near them, they'll pick up your voice. But if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and then taking a moment or two and sharing the thoughts that you want to share today with the family and friends. And so if someone will go first, I promise you it'll help the rest. It would help. We're recording this, and so this will help those that will be part of this later on. Thanks, Edgar. Right there. There you go. You don't have to hold it, just.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Edgar. I know Jeshua for just 1 year. I started my education almost at the same time as him. My first semester that I went with him, we got to know each other. My second semester, he actually did touch my life, my heart. My experience with him was like, he helped me so much. He helped me through one of my classes. I was texting him, and he was always responding. He was everything that you said. He was actually him. He was a helpful guy, loving guy, and it's too bad that he's not here with us anymore. But I will remember always Jeshua. And I said to when I got to know what happened to him, I said to in my heart, in my mind, I said that I will graduate because of him. And my graduation is going to be because of him. He helped me through one of my classes. That it was the toughest classes, but because of that too, I got to know Jeshua very well. That he helped me through my last semester that I was with him, and I really appreciate it. And I even got to know a little bit about his dad, because I parked my car right next to his house. And he was a really amazing guy. Thank you, guys.
Hi, my name is Tanya Rogers, and I had the privilege of being Jeshua's teacher when he was in junior high. As a teacher, we have this special talent to recognize souls, and his was so pure and just the sweetest child. We see a lot of bullying and, the way kids treat each other. And Jeshua was just such a breath of fresh air. It was nice to every single child, every single student he ever met. He had something nice and encouraging to say to them. And to witness that as a teacher was just so special. My own daughter, my own children went to school with him. And, we still joke about it to this day, but I used to say to Mihaela all the time, please marry Jeshua, please, We just see this specialness, in kids. And she'd say, Mom, we're just friends, and of course they were young, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But I'm like, I just love him so much, you have to marry him. And so, we still joke about it, but he's that kid, he is just such a special soul that every parent would want to see their child marry, and that's a testament to you as a parent. And just, I have thoroughly enjoyed watching him grow up. I got here today and saw the little poem on the back, which, we wrote those poems when he was in 8th grade in my class, and I know he rewrote it again in high school, but he's just really touched my heart and just a superior human being, and I'm so honored to have spent time with him here on earth.
Thank you so much.
So to keep it going with the teachers, his 5th grade teacher, Renee Bailey, could not be here, but she did write something that she said I could read. It said, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it back in time for this service. I really wanted to support you and your family. Jeshua was a special person. I know he's being missed by everyone who had the pleasure of knowing him. I always enjoyed having him in my class and remember fondly the smile and uplifting warmth that he exuded. He made teaching fun because he enjoyed learning. You and my family are in my thoughts.
Wonderful.
My name is Colin Carr, and I was Jesh's high school basketball coach. I got all the players back there, and I'm going to go along with the teachers as well. I'm going to keep it quick. When I found out, the sad news, one of my players told me, and next thing you know, I'm getting phone calls from all of them, and it's just like, why? And but a story about Jesh is, as teachers, I know there's some teachers in here, and being a former teacher, you have students that test you, kind of push your buttons, and I know there's many in here that know what kind of teacher I was. I'm seeing some smiles right now. I get a little fired up as I'm the coach. But I get fired up, but every practice, before practice, if I had a bad day, or if I was having a bad day with a student or a number of students or whatever it was, in walks Jesh, and your day just changes. It goes from bad to what am I mad about? There's nothing to be mad about, because he walks in with that smile that's been talked about. And he's just a very special person, and be very severely missed. But yeah, I know these guys probably agree with me, but they can come up and tell some stories about him. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
pretty much echo everything that so many people have said. He was such an amazing young man, and no doubt, just the instant that you got to see Jeshua just made a difference, you know. And like I said, they all said the same thing. So determined, and just everything he did, just like he had mentioned, and Jared had read, and he just had a way of making you feel, no matter what the instance was, that if it was a difficult day, it just wasn't, like Coach Carr said, it wasn't a big deal. I remember we went on a trip, and I know that was one of his favorite parts of cross country, was just getting a chance to go places, and we did visit Humboldt State, which I remember him talking fondly about. And he was more worried on that one trip we went on because I was by myself. And he's like, Coach, you can't be by yourself. And I said, why? You should be. Don't worry about me. Go worry about, go have some fun. I mean, because I was, there were times where we had female coaches drive or whatever, and he was more worried about me and how I felt than, having fun. I guess that was more a concern. So he spent some time just chit-chatting with me to make me feel good. But that's the kind of person Jeshua is. He just always was worried about other people and wanted to make other people feel better. And it wasn't like I was feeling down, and he just always wanted everybody else to be uplifted. And I love you, Jesh.
Thank you also, Coach.
Heart's beating out of my chest. Sorry if my voice cracks. I'm Coach Brooke. Coach Broadmerkle, who just spoke, coached me, and I graduated in 2011 from CV. Jeshua was such a kind, authentic, the gift that kept on giving. Would always look forward to seeing him. He was genuinely invested in how I was, just as a person, as a coach, as how did your day go? Costco, whatever. And took that time to really extend himself in role, title, and relationship that, hey, you're the last one on the track, or, well, this is my job, or, Josh, no, he just wanted to. And I said, no, I want to be here. It's not because it's a job. And he's like, well, I want to help you. And just a teamwork-oriented, very, a perspective for a young man at that age. Absolutely beautiful. His endurance, and I would tell him on the opposite spectrum, was very invested in my cross country and track high school career, and I didn't focus on the academic part. And in hindsight, had I pushed myself more, the scholarships and the opportunities, and we talked a lot about that. And Coach Broadmerkle inspired me at a certain point to go to school and do my kinesiology thing, and I had talked to Jesh a lot about that, and seeing the sides of him, of seeing the way that the body worked and how interested he was in that, and also pushing his own body, which was really just, as we talk about your sports, or my sports, your sports punishment, and that sentiment, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, cross country is really mental, and he loved that about it. It wasn't just a physical thing, and I think that spans kind of the spectrum of how multifaceted Jesh was. He really impacted me. I always looked forward to seeing him, to the sentiment of Coach Carr back there, Coach Broadmerkle, everyone in the room, right? He was just an amazing individual, beautiful human being. One of the purest souls, as his teacher said. And I'm gonna miss Jesh a lot. We talked about, I said to him, as I'm now friends with my coach, and I guess, went back to the track and went back to my community in that facet. And I told him, if you ever, I would love to work with you, because he was just an individual that wanted to make the people around him feel seen, heard, and understood, and held so much space. And that is such a gift. And as you said, it's such a value to see people and have that comfort and be seen in today's digital age. He was very present. And so I am babbling Brooke, but I could go on and on about the beautiful things about that human. So like I said, I'll miss Jesh, and I love you, man. I love you, Jesh.
Well said.
Hi, my name's Lehua. I didn't know Jeshua for too long. We met in bio maybe last year. He was a really, really awesome person to have a class with, especially studying together. He was always willing to stay up and stay in the library with me to study. Sorry. Oh God, this is harder than it looks. I introduced him to my family. When my mom met him, she thought he was so sweet, and he just had such great manners, which, thank you guys. You guys raised a good human. We would have this little group. It would be my sister, me, my husband, our friend Jesus, and our friend Elisa. And we would always hang out and play not video games, but we'd play board games and just sit and talk. He had mentioned his apartment had got flooded with sewage water, and so they gave him some points for a hotel. So one night he booked this hotel room for us where all of us got together and we played board games and talked and had fun, and it was really awesome. And I don't really know other people who are willing to just use their hotel points for, their friends like that. But Jeshua was really great. He was a really good friend, and I'll really miss him. Thanks.
I know that there are many of you that would love to share, but just the thought of getting up is overwhelming. And trust me, the family knows that. The family knows that. Because of our location, we are often called upon to officiate services up at the VA cemetery. And it's an honor to be there every time. And so there was one morning I was there, and I showed up, and the motorcycle, the honor guard was there. They had their vests on, their colors, and they were welcoming people as they walked into the chapel. And it was a military service, of course, and so I met with the family for a little bit. And then as the service began, it was time to present to the family our flag. And so those that were presenting the flag were in their full uniform. There was a young man, a young woman, probably in their late 20s, and they respectfully gave the flag to the family, and they said what they had to say, and then the military did their presentation, and then I was asked to do my part of the service, and I did. The reason I say this is we do a good job in America of taking a word and ruining it because we overuse it. I think we've ruined the word family in many ways. We've dishonored it because we use it so loosely. But on that day, family was defined properly. And what I mean by that is there was the military family that was there. what's fascinating to me was seeing these men and women that were greeting people, no longer wearing their uniforms, but having their colors of representing their time in the service. And though they never met the young man, the young woman that was presenting the flag, they just had eyesight that when they were connected, you could see there was a family sense. Why? Because of common experiences, boot camp, training, the branch they served in. And then as I looked out, I saw this particular person who passed away, his vocational family. He was in real estate. And so there were all the people from the real estate world that he had worked with for years, and there was a connection. And of course, the most natural was the biological family. And as I stood there, I was in awe again because of my connection with the person that passed away, that he was also a family member for me, not by blood, but by faith. And that there's an eternal connection that we have had. And when I said at the beginning that today is not a happy day, it's a joyful day, it's not because of anything we experience, it's because of what Jesus Christ has done for all of us. And because of the yes that Juice Box said to Jesus in his life. Said, yes, I want to be known as a part of your family. And the reason I know that's true in the meaning of this is because when we come together, there's a hope and a peace that we have. You know, the Bible doesn't go into a lot of detail as to what takes place when we take our last earthly breath. And even on that tragic afternoon, as you were sharing with me, what was the heart behind him? Helping a friend. Helping a friend who didn't have the strength to return to the other side of the river. And it's just that heart of graciousness and love and care that we've all heard exemplified that was real, was genuine. But yet I do know some things, I call them 4 snapshots from the Bible about what takes place when we take our last breath. And the first picture snapshot for me is Jesus on his last day. And he's on a cross. He's actually in the middle of 2 other criminals, and he was in the middle. And on that particular day, the world that was rejecting Jesus, mocking him, were jeering and saying what they said. And there was one guy on one side of Jesus who was on a cross also, and he joined in with the world, mocking him. And yet on the other side of Jesus, the Bible tells us, God's love letter, that he begins to have this conversation with, here's Jesus in the middle. These guys are talking back and forth. And he's saying, hey, we deserve to be here. This guy does not. And then he says something incredible. He says to Jesus, remember me. Remember me. The response of Jesus is overwhelming to me. And by the way, even the thought of them having this conversation, most people don't realize the way people died on a cross literally was suffocation in time as your body would give way. And literally, so I say that because every word is precious. Every breath was precious. And to consider using his precious words with Jesus are powerful. And Jesus did not say this to him, I will remember you if. We do that. We say, listen, you're going to go to heaven if you do a lot of good things, if you're not an idiot. Listen, I know a lot of people going to heaven that are genuine idiots, okay? He didn't say any of that stuff. He said to him, today you'll be with me in paradise. That tells me when Juicebox took his last breath, his next moment is with the Lord. Which brings me to that next thought, well, what is paradise? For years, people have taught me that it's probably like Hawaii. Oh God, please no. I don't want some person trying to sell me a timeshare in heaven or traffic. And so the Apostle Paul was writing a letter and he said, I don't know how to describe this, but I know a man, whether it was a vision or a dream, I don't know, but he was caught up in the third heaven. And of course, that's kind of odd to me, like what's the third heaven? Well, the first heaven is the sky. Oh, second heaven is the stars. The third heaven is beyond that. And he said, when I was caught up in the third heaven, I saw God. And what I saw is impossible to describe. I've even really been forbidden to try and share with you. And I often wonder why. Can I just suggest this? Because there's no proper words that we can use to articulate the beauty, the wonder, the presence of heaven with God there. Maybe that is the best definite. What's heaven? Being in the presence of God. Which takes me to the third snapshot. There's a story that's captured in the Bible. A historical moment where two men pass away. And one man lived a very successful life according to the world's standards. He had the wealth, he had the success, he had this. And every day he'd walk by this other guy that was right there near him and just ignored him. His name was Lazarus. And yet they both died. And this man who had this life that was what the world would say, man, he had it all, was separated from Lazarus. There was this cavern, and he cried out. And it says that Lazarus was being comforted by what the Bible call Abraham's bosom, a way of bringing comfort. And so there's conversation. He's saying, hey, Father Abraham, go tell my brothers there is a hell. Go tell my brothers, get it together. And he said, you know what? No. Just like you had the prophets, you had this opportunity. And he said, what about this guy? And this one who had nothing had everything because he at one time said yes to the comfort of God. I share this because right now, where Juice Box is, he's alive and he's present. He knows the comfort of God. And then the very last book in the Bible, it's called the Revelation of Jesus Christ. It says this, and in heaven, there's no more tears. There's no more toil. The questions that you need answered, if you need the answers, will be given to you. You will know that God is righteous and just. Because these mysteries on this side of heaven are just really frustrating, confusing in many ways. And so, what the Bible says is this, and I'll conclude here. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so, God will bring with him those who sleep in Jesus. The Bible describes those men and women who've said yes to Jesus. When they take their last breath here, they're at a position of rest, comfort. It says, for this we say by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will by no means precede those who are asleep. There is a generation of people, I don't know when it's going to happen, I don't know who they are, but they will never have the experience of physical death. The Bible says that there's going to be a group of people that are not going to experience physical death, but one day this group, whoever they are, whenever it happens, will be caught up. Listen to what it says. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, in the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God. There'll be a declaration that Jesus is going to return. And what happens? Then we who are alive and remain, that whoever that generation is, shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and thus we shall always be with the Lord. I do know this about Juicebox. He'll be returning here one day with Jesus. Whether we return with him from heaven or we're caught up here, it's our decision. And people say, well, how does this work? Is it like a yo-yo? You die and you come back and go back and forth? No, he's with the Lord. He's present with the Lord. But the Bible says there's going to come a day when Jesus is going to stand, and those that are with him will rise with him, and they will return. And those of us that are still living at that point will meet them in the air and be united again. Gang, that's why I said this is a joyful moment. For those of us that have said yes to the invitation, may I just say this? You are not a puppet, you are a person. God's not pulling your strings. He loves you. He cares for you. And his desire is to spend eternity with you. And when this moment, we all have an expiration date. I'm sorry, we do. But when our expiration date comes, my prayer is that we'll join the Lord again. And it's a simple way to have that affirmed by simply saying yes to his invitation to allow him to lead your life, to comfort your life, to sometimes help you in life clarify, you know what, that wasn't the best decision, because he cares for us. And I'm so thankful that one day I'm going to see him again. And that family, yes, the basketball family, the track family, the Humboldt State family, the community family. There's all that family. And yet there's the promise of an eternal family that continues on beyond anything we can imagine. And I'm thankful that I will see my friend again. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity that we can spend just a few moments together, remembering, honoring, showing our respect, and also crying together. And we thank you for this, Father. In Jesus' name, amen. As we conclude our time in here, on your way out, if you'd like to, we have some rocks that are out there. And if you'd like to put some things on the rocks, they're going to be distributed back over at the river area to remember that special day. And so the family wanted to extend that invitation to you and to say, thank you so much for being here. God bless you. And this concludes our time here together.